No. He's gonna stand there, he's gonna sit there like a grandfather, put the baby on a lap, take a couple pictures, then he's gonna die.
The Georgia Virtue presents the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast.
Thank you for listening to episode 271. This week, we have political theater. Kennedy is no more. A ton of fun enters the race. Lizzo. Permitless breasts. Don't bend that fender. The change that wasn't on Broadway. The hit on a stripper. Chick-fil-A what? A little fight club. Come on down and enjoy the filth by the bay. Another loser at the GOP convention, and Kemp takes aim at Democrats. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is my partner in this endeavor, Representative Emeritus Ken Pullen.
Hey, Dave. How are you this week? Happy Pride Month.
I'm fabulous.
One of
everything's going rainbows.
Yeah, one of my friends discovered our podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he said he always really liked your introduction. So the introduction was very long this morning. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we do. But yes, happy Pride Month. I real quick on that. You have to feel used a little bit when every you get pandered to for 30 days and then thrown away, and all the American flags come out for July.
It seems like it's a little tamped down this year, though, with all the stuff going on with Bud Light and Target and now Chick-fil-A. I don't see as many logos online changing this year. It's changed last year.
And we said last week, I think there has to be a divorce between the LGB and the T's. Mm-hmm. I think there's a huge difference between being, hey, listen, we're accepting of anybody's adult relationship, and then turn around saying it's also okay to encourage little boys to tuck their wieners.
Right, exactly. I do think there needs to be a divorce between the letters there.
Yeah, but I do think I think the pandering is insulting. Mm-hmm. At first, I'm sure it was very much support and all that stuff, but at this point, it's just pandering.
Yep.
All right, so the debt ceiling deal got done.
Yes, congratulations. Get to spend more money now.
Yeah. The deep cuts that the Republicans were able to get through.
Yes, we were just talking about this. So what's the quote? They're going to reduce the deficit over a 10-year period, but there's actually not a reduction, because instead of spending $20 trillion more dollars over the next 10 years, they're only going to spend $10 trillion extra dollars over the next 10 years. So we're not cutting anything. We're just not spending quite as much money over the next 10-year cycle. Well,
and they're using the COVID years as a benchmark. When the government was spending like crazy.
Yep.
That should not be the benchmark. We need to look back at 2019 as the benchmark for federal spending.
Yes, exactly.
Now, I understand there's inflation for the government too. I mean, they still have to put fuel in vehicles. They still have to feed troops. They still have to do a lot of stuff. So the cost that go up does affect the federal government. But hell, they caused it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. And you're right. I mean, a lot of it's during the COVID years. A lot of my friends don't have, they have that selective memory with President Trump. And look, I know we had COVID, but there was more money spent during President Trump's and our Trump's 4-year term than what he spent. He had a $7.5 trillion to the deficit over a 4-year period. It's almost $2 trillion a year.
The SOB sent checks out, COVID relief checks, with his signature on them.
Right.
He was trying to out-Democrat the Democrats, and that never works.
No, and I was listening to a stat yesterday on the radio, and they said that actually the years that the government spent the most money has always been when Republicans, when there's the same party has control of all our two branches of government, right? There's a Republican president, Republicans have control of Congress. That's when we typically have really high spending. Same with Democrats. You got a Democrat president, Democrats controlling Congress. You have tons and tons of spending. So it just shows that neither party is responsible about the spending in Washington. But when they get together, you better hold on to your pocketbooks.
Yeah, look, this was all theater. This was always going to pass.
It was just it passed at the last minute, so we think these people are even more important than they actually are.
And look, there are a lot of people mad at McCarthy. He sent everybody home for the long weekend, and he stayed and did the negotiations on his own, is what the accusation is. This had nothing to do with Democrat or Republican, not at all. This is an incumbent protection bill because we have no debt ceiling until after the 2024 election.
Yeah, Jay has suspended it until January 1st, 2025. So we'll be able to get through the next election without talking about this again. And then the next president will inherit this mess again, and that's when it'll come back up. But again, it'll be 2025 instead of before the presidential election.
But it's January of 2025 is when it ends. Like, you're going to get inaugurated that day and then immediately have to go into a negotiation with Congress.
I know, exactly. Yeah, it was interesting how our Georgia congressman voted on this bill. So Rich McCormick, Mike Collins, and Andrew Clyde all voted no, along with fellow Democrat Nikema Williams. And then all of our other congressmen voted yes on it. I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, which, boy, she really became an insider fast.
Yeah, Marjorie voted yes on this deal, and she was really defending McCarthy in the wake of a lot of criticism from the fellow Republican conservatives in the House. So you're right. There's been, and we've talked about this, I think, last week on the show, but she has really flipped from sort of an outsider in D.C. to a staunch insider. She's in the back pocket of Kevin McCarthy now. So this has been a big change for her.
Yeah, I mean, between buying $100,000 lip balm and supporting him for Speaker, and then being a steadfast supporter of this bill that McCarthy brought, it's not. I assume she got tired of being in the cold.
Yeah, maybe so, but there's 40 or 50 other guys in D.C. and guys men and women that she could go partner with. So it's not like she's the only one out in the cold in D.C. And I know it's in a comfortable position, but boy, the flip flop on her part has been very dramatic.
Yeah, look, when you have a little more gravitas and you have a little more credit up there, you can get away with some no votes against the Speaker. But when you're newly in his good graces, I'm guessing. And look, I'm not making excuses for her. I mean, you need to vote principles, not making yourself feel good. And Rush Limbaugh talked about this a long time ago. It's the cocktail party circuit.
Yes,
it's not just it's what you're invited to once they gavel out for the day. And when you're on the outside, you're on the outside, but it's the cocktail parties that you want to get invited to.
Yep. I thought it was interesting what Congressman Nancy Mace says. She's out of North Carolina, but she said, and this was a quote, "This was not a compromise. Republicans got very little. We're adding $4 trillion of debt over the next 2 years. There's no cap on the debt limit itself, on the debt ceiling. And we're expanding and growing government welfare. That's what happened tonight." So good for her, really speaking out against this bill. $4 trillion more dollars in the next 2 years. I just can't. I mean, we're going to go from 31 now to 35 over the next 2 years, or 36 trillion. We're on a race to $50 trillion in national debt. Yeah,
of debt that could almost never be repaid.
No, and the percentage of interest we pay on that debt is becoming a large percentage of the GDP every year. So we're getting to the point where it's going to be a tipping factor at a certain point. We're going to have a lot larger issues than we would have had if this bill probably wouldn't have passed.
Right. So Fox cancels Kennedy. Well, not Kennedy Montgomery, the person, but Kennedy, the show on Fox Business.
I know. I saw this. This is one of your favorite shows, and mine too. Kennedy's got a great show, and she is off the air now. She's, however, going to remain at Fox, but I think I was very disappointed in Fox canceling the Kennedy show.
Hey, they're putting on Larry Kudlow reruns.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going from a libertarian to somebody who is, let's just say, a lefter-leaning Republican who was a
right.
Democrat at one point.
Yeah, she always had great content on her show. She had good people that always came on her show. They always had, very cordial debates. I thought she would get promoted versus her show getting taken off the air. I thought Kennedy had a bright future, but I don't know what prompted this decision.
Unless she's going to slot in for Tucker.
Yeah, that's an interesting hypothesis there, Dave. Could be. We'll see.
Because she's not leaving Fox. She's still going to be doing guest spots and all that stuff. What I really liked about Kennedy was it gave a voice to people like Spike Cohen.
It did.
To Shane Hazel, to other libertarians that are out there that otherwise weren't getting any airtime.
Yep, she always did.
And really, when you pull her off of Fox Business, there is nobody else out there doing it.
No, there's not at all.
It's not on the big Fox. It's not on CNN. It's not PMSNBC or anybody else. Nobody else is covering this stuff, and that message is now not going to get out.
Yeah, not at all.
Unless they end up coming on Gutfeld at 11 o'clock at night, which I watch. And look, it's the number one show in late night, but it's still late night.
Yeah,
so
I'm done at 11.
Normal consumers not. Yeah, normal consumers is not taking that in. I DVR it every day.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this. Also, I put in the notes, but Matt Gaetz, who's a congressman out of Florida, he was on Newsmax this week, which I've never watched Newsmax. I don't even know how to find it, but he actually had more viewers on his show than Anderson Cooper had on CNN. So it feels like there's a shift that's going on where people are leaving Fox because of Tucker leaving, and they're moving over to Newsmax, and a lot more viewers are starting to watch the Newsmax shows. But when did Newsmax come out? Was this during the Trump years, or was this sort of an alternate reality type, network that came out?
I don't know the history on Newsmax. I started hearing about it under the Trump stuff.
Yeah, I did too.
And I think it's an answer to Fox adding more liberal content to their lineup. Mm-hmm. And in Fox's defense, they've always had liberals on their show, whether it was Alan Combs or somebody like that. And out of five, watching the five, out of four of the five are more or less conservatives, and then you have one liberal. It might as well just be called 4-on-1. But it's always respectful and all that stuff. And what's funny is, as you see, like with Jessica Tarloff, is you start seeing her hard left stances start to swing a little further towards the middle, just like we see. What's her name? S.E. Cupp, who was a regular on Fox News, moved over to CNN, and then she starts moving left. Same thing with Meghan McCain. Started easing over to the left when everybody you work with, everybody you're surrounded with, is left, then they start moving that direction.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so things are about to get heavy. Chris Christie is poised to announce his run for POTUS in 2024.
Yeah, everybody remembers this was the governor of New Jersey back from 2010 to 2018. Look, this guy's got a 47% unfavorable rating among Republicans. I can't believe it's not higher than that. Know what this guy's getting in a race for. I haven't found anybody that likes Christie.
Yeah, a cupcake on his plate has a better chance than he does.
It does. And I saw Babylon Bee this week, which is a satirical website, they've got great content, but it said, political analysts confirmed that Chris Christie will eat the competition's lunch. So I thought that was a funny headline.
Yeah, and look, I, as a fat guy, not Chris Christie fat, but as a fat guy, I know it's impolite to point that out. But look, the first thing DeSantis did when he decided he wanted to run was get on the Weight Watchers or whatever he did.
He did.
He dropped weight.
Yep.
It's not that it's how physically grueling it is, but it's the impression. It's giving people one less thing to hammer you on.
I can't imagine he gets 1% of a primary vote. I don't
know what his goal is here.
I don't either. I don't know what a lot of people's goals. Yeah,
he's not going to pick up a vice presidential slot. I think Tim Scott might, because he can deliver South Carolina.
But just this week, Christie's jumping in, vice president. Up under Trump's jumping in. We've got what are we up to? 10 candidates now. Yeah,
Pence has no chance.
No, Pence has zero chance. So I don't know
what.
And he has zero chance to be in administration. Yeah, right.
Well, yeah. Look, if I don't know, he could pick up an ambassadorship somewhere.
Look, I think Mike
Not
Pence
under
is
Trump.
and I think Pence is one of the best guys you can meet. I think he's a super guy, a great Christian guy. He took a lot of flack a few years ago when he said he wouldn't go out to lunch or dinner with another woman without his wife being present, and the media just blasted him for that. But that it was smart on his part. You can't do stuff like that being a married man. It just looks bad on you and your wife. And he took a lot of flack. I think he's almost too nice for politics, but I think they're trying to figure out how they attack Trump, and maybe Chris Christie's going to be the bully that really goes in hard after Trump and lets DeSantis sort of not have to do all the attacks while you've got Christie attacking him from, that side. Maybe that's the strategy. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Look, I've never heard Pence being accused of sexually harassing a woman. There aren't people coming out of the woodwork to sue him for sexual harassment. So that milquetoast is kind of nice with that, especially after the last 8 years we've had of ups and downs with the presidential election in 16, again in 20, and now going to 24. Boring might be nice for a little while, but Pence has no chance.
No.
And he's not mean enough to go and attack Trump. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and I don't think DeSantis is too, though, right? I mean, I don't think that's his goal. So we'll see.
Speaking of heavy, Lizzo is considering quitting the music industry because of people talking about her weight.
I will second that motion. Look,
yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard a Lizzo song. I see her grabbing the headlines from time to time, but yeah, this was an interesting story.
The only time I've ever heard her music, I think is who it was, is the Hair Back Thing. Was a soundtrack to a movie my wife was watching or something like that. I think other woman. I don't even know what stupid rom-com she was watching that had it, but yeah, I couldn't name a single Lizzo song. But look, she is the one who made her weight an issue.
She did.
She's out there wearing spandex and see-through stuff and half naked on stage. And look, if you're going to be half naked on stage, people are going to talk about your body.
Yep. She says she's hurt by all the negative comments on her social media pages, and that's what's driving this decision to potentially quit music.
Well, she brags about how healthy she is. She works out every day, loves working out.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't eat fast food and stuff. I'm like, I try not to eat fast food, but I'm on the road so much. Look, it wasn't fast food that made me fat. It was steak and potatoes.
Hey, look, I'll tell her. This is very true for anybody that's in the limelight here. If you're reading comments on your social media pages, that's probably the first place to stop. Politicians, celebrities, when you put stuff out there, you've got to know that people are going to comment. Some people are going to support you, some people are not going to support you. If you're out there reading those comments every day, you're going to get your feelings hurt. It's better just to post stuff and move on, because there are going to be negative comments.
I've heard that from a lot of people, even D-list celebrities like people on the radio in Atlanta and Sports Talk. Mm-hmm. They'll go on Twitter, they'll put their thoughts out, and that's it. Unless they ask for a poll,
right,
or whatever. In politics, if you make it high enough, you have somebody who handles your social media for you. I think Micah Gravely had the best thing when he got criticism. He wouldn't get into a debate on Facebook.
No, you can't. And when I was in office, you just can't.
What he did was he'd say, "Let's grab coffee."
Yes, and nobody ever shows up for coffee at that point.
Right. Let's grab coffee and talk about it. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. PM me. He'd put his phone number out. Hey, give me a call. We'll do coffee.
I had a guy, his name was Tom. I'm not going to repeat his last name, but when I was in office, he would comment on every single post I put on Facebook, and it was always in a negative way. So then all the other people in my district saw that Tom was always commenting. Every time I went out and I ran into people, they would say, "Hey, how's Tom doing?" I mean, it became this kind of joke because everybody would wait on Tom to reply and put comments on my Facebook post. And I actually talked to Tom. He was one of those guys we finally sat down and talked for a little while. I mean, he was a hardcore liberal, but it was respectful when we met in person, like you expect most things to do. But interaction online was not respectful at all.
Matt Lowe was running for office, and he had somebody before that. When he got in a political debate with somebody, he started talking about Matt's kids, and he said, "I will start your soul if you mention my family again."
Jeez.
And that dude ended up voting for him. I think that was the guy that basically figured out he was out of line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not exactly. Wonder how Matt didn't win.
Hard to believe.
So, lactation consultants don't need a license in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting story. So the Georgia Supreme Court ruled this week unanimously that a state law that was passed back in 2016 requiring lactation consultants to be licensed is unconstitutional. So not everybody knows, but Georgia is one of the worst states in the nation for occupational licenses. We rank somewhere around 10th in the number that we require for people. And then almost every year, if you pay attention to the Georgia General Assembly, they are licensing more and more professions that pop up. And all these licenses is a way that makes it harder to get into the business. And then it makes it harder for more lower income people to get in because it costs money. You have to go through training. And some of the jobs like this are not, and you said it earlier, they're not performing any type of medical operation. So there's no danger or risk if someone doesn't have a license.
And we were talking before the show, and I think I've experienced this with obviously not personally, but I've spoken to women who are mothers, and there's a tremendous amount of guilt for women who have a hard time breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
And these lactation consultants will come in and tell you how horrible a formula is for your baby, and you're not doing something right, and you need to do better. You need to do whatever exercises, massages, whatever. But some of these lactation consultants are just awful people. They have an agenda. And listen, there's nobody's going to disagree that breast milk is superior if it can be done. But think about how many babies died with famine, or if 100 years ago, if you couldn't breastfeed, or actually more than 100 years, probably 150 years ago,
yeah, right.
You had to hire a wet nurse.
Yep.
And if you weren't somebody who could do that, if you weren't somebody who could find another nursing mother, your kid starved to death.
Yep. No, and I thought what was interesting here, too, is Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, who actually voted no against this original law back in 2016, praised the court's ruling. So he was one of the defendants in the case. So very good on his part and his office part for coming out saying we don't need another license in Georgia, and actually suing to have this law declared unconstitutional. So, hey, I tip my hat to Brad Raffensperger on this one, because his office would have been required to issue these licenses. And it makes it harder to work. And what ends up happening in a lot of these cases, you may think, well, why did Georgia even go down this path? So you'll have these lactation providers out there that form a little group, and then they lobby the state assembly to pass a law that says now everybody's got to be licensed. And it's just preventing competition at that point. So a lot of these licenses come out of groups of people in Georgia wanting to create a license so more people can't get into that profession. So it's not like they're doing it out of the goodness of their hearts to make sure people get the right training. They're doing it so fewer people can get into the profession. So they're trying to limit competition.
Yeah, look, when I took my warm air exam, I took it on Valentine's Day, I think. It was February 14th. It's a computer test. Now it's a 8-hour algebra test, but it's all on computer. 2 months later, I didn't have my results.
Mm-hmm.
Pass or fail. I had to call. I called Secretary of State's office. At the time, Secretary of State was Brian Kemp. Call Secretary of State's office. You need to talk to the testing company. Call the testing company. You need to talk to Secretary of State. So finally, I got somebody at the testing company to send the results over. And so I called Secretary of State. She goes, "Oh no, you did really good." And I had my license the next day. So I was talking to Brian Kemp at a meeting one day, and told him about that, about the laborious process. He said, we're working on it and all this stuff. And I was talking to my brother who got me into the business. And he goes, why would you do that? You're in. So yeah,
don't make it easier.
Yeah, don't make it easier. Don't add to the competition. You're in.
Yeah, that's all this is doing. And like you, I had stories when I was in office for people applying for the real estate license. And then it was just the most painful process, just getting through. Not after you take the real estate test, you pass the test, and then you wait months and months and months to get your license. And it's really for no reason, right? It's just bureaucracy in the government, not having enough people in the government to fulfill these licensing requirements, and it prevents people from making money and it prevents people from working.
Yeah, look, it is if you're. It's a little different for professional licenses like mine, because you had to work in the field for a certain amount of time. So usually you're not completely broke. You're not learning, going to school to learn off the bat. You've been working in the industry for several years, and you have people to sign for your license and all that stuff. But yeah, waiting months and being in limbo for months. You can't start your business. You can't do anything for months. So, speaking of expensive, don't get an fender bender in your Rivian.
Yeah, I've heard this. This has become a big topic in Georgia and around the nation now. These electric cars are so costly to repair once they get into a wreck, and it's bumping everybody's car insurance up. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this guy had a fender bender. But the way these things are put together, one is the crumple zones are designed to protect the occupants. I understand. But the way these things come together, in order to replace the bumper, the damn glass had to come out.
Mm-hmm.
They had to break this thing all the way down. It cost $42,000 to fix a dent in a bumper on a vehicle that cost $73,000.
Wow. Yeah, I've got a Farm Bureau friend that's an insurance agent, and he shared this story also. And his direct thing, his view on this was these electric cars. And look, also, these electric cars are tearing up our roads because they weigh a lot more than normal cars. So the electric cars are tearing up the roads. The people that buy the electric cars are getting tax credits and rebates back. And then when the electric car gets into a wreck, it costs a ton of money to repair the car, which then raises everybody else's car insurance that hasn't bought an electric car.
Not to mention putting a strain on our electrical grid.
Yes, it does. Right.
So in some states they say not to charge your car between certain hours.
Yeah, these electric cars are a mess. I don't know if you saw there was a congressional hearing on electric cars, and the government's view is everybody should be in an electric car by 2040. I think it's like 100% electric. And one of the senators or congressmen asked the person testifying. He said, "Well, what would our power grid be like, or what kind of enhancements would we need if we had 100% electric cars?" And it was just a joke at that point because everybody knows it'll never work. Electric grid couldn't support it, but the government's continue going down this path of 100% electric cars, in 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, look, you didn't have to convince people to buy automobiles. For millennia, transportation was horse. Going all the way back to the Egyptians with chariots. You didn't have to force somebody to get into a car. What happened?
Yep.
Everybody was horse and buggy. Cars were very expensive and were toys, and not the most efficient way to get around because the roads didn't support it. And here comes Ford with the Model T, affordable common man's car. You could put just about any working family could put one vehicle in their driveway. It was innovation that brought about the change from going with livestock to internal combustion. It was innovation that did it. Mm-hmm. Affordability. It wasn't government forcing anybody to do anything. No one said you have to buy a car, put your horse in the barn. Rush actually did a really good song about this called Red Barchetta.
I'll have to listen to
that. Neil Peart was a brilliant lyricist, and the idea is internal combustion has been outlawed, and this kid would go to his uncle's farm and and uncover this internal combustion car, and he'd go driving, and then the cops would chase him and all this stuff. But it was a dystopian future. He was big into Ayn Rand. So it was a dystopian future where the government eliminates internal combustion. That song's 40 years old. and they saw and Pierce saw that coming. Rest his soul. Speaking of things that were 40 years ago that are coming true, John Cleese of Monty Python is giving his middle finger to the woke. Now, don't confuse John Cleese with a conservative. But he's a comedian. And for those who don't know, most people know Monty Python. I know you're not a big fan of Monty Python. It's a British comedy troupe. They started off doing sketch comedy in something called Monty Python's Flying Circus. They did Quest for the Holy Grail, but this is about Life of Brian.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene in the movie where this guy decides he wants to have a baby. He wants to be a woman named Loretta.
Okay.
And the argument goes back and forth with him about well, you can't have a baby. You haven't got a womb. And they go back and forth. What are you going to do? Keep where is the baby going to gestate? In a box? And this is, well, let's agree that you have the right to have a baby even if you can't have a baby. What's the point of that? And he goes, well, to fight our oppression. He goes, you're fighting reality. and so this is going to be a stage. I think this is going to be on Broadway. This is going to be a stage production. Yeah. And they want it to be cut. They want that scene to be cut. And he gave the middle finger. No.
Oh, good for him.
I think Life of Brian came out in 1979. And this was already a joke. This was a joke in 1979.
Well, it was a joke. It was a joke 5 years ago. I mean, it was a joke in 2018, right? It's only in 2023 that a man can have a baby, and a man can actually. We were talking about lactation earlier, but there was a story this week on a man being able to breastfeed a baby now, and he's taking all these hormones, he's pumping, tons and tons of chemicals into his body, and now supposedly for him he can nurse his baby, and nobody knows what's in this substance that's coming out of his body now. So, yeah, I mean, all this was a joke 5 years ago.
Well, I heard that theory a long time ago that, well, it's not a theory, true. I was playing poker with a doctor, and we were talking about women and their bodies and stuff. We're talking about boobs, and he goes, they're nothing but overgrown sweat glands. So I suppose if you're equipped with the sweat glands, it's possible to produce something, but I'm not sure. A bunch of chemicals. You would tell a nursing mother to be careful what you put in your body. So much so that you don't eat fish with mercury and things like
right.
that.
Yep.
But give a man who decides he wants to nurse a bunch of chemicals and then expect it not to affect the body, right?
Yeah. All my wife ate when she was pregnant was Mexican food, and now in turn, all my 18-year-old son wants to eat his Mexican food. So we think that had something to do with it.
had a proclivity in utero.
Yes, exactly.
But good on John Cleese. A lot of the stuff that was jokes, that were jokes, whether it's Idiocracy or so many of the other things that were jokes. There was a movie where Schwarzenegger is pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I think the cover of Glamour magazine or some magazine that's coming out is a naked chick that says she's a guy, but she's pregnant. And instead of having clothes on, it's painted on her. I like the one where the transgender couple conceives a baby. It's a transgender man and transgender woman. Like, you mean you had straight sex?
Yes, exactly.
Like he turned it all the way back around to being straight.
People, hundreds, if not thousands of years, are going to look back at 2023 and say, what in the hell was the U.S. thinking? And it's the U.S., by the way. It's not, this craziness we have going on is not widespread around the world. It's in the United States.
Yeah, you don't see that in Riyadh. Where's your burqa? I'm a man.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You don't see it in Europe, though. I mean, you don't see it in Italy. You don't see it in Spain. You don't see it in any of these other countries. It's focused on the U.S. That's what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah. Whatever. So anyway, we appear that a stripper had a hit performed on her in Atlanta. This person is It took a little digging to figure out that she was a stripper. I mean, I kind of figured it. But she got off her shift at the lounge late night, and she was killed in an Uber. I think it was an Uber black car. I think it was like a Caddy, an Escalade. Two cars, two shooters. Shooter in the back seat. Uber driver doesn't get a scratch. I'm sure he's traumatized, but
Yeah, I
didn't
would
get a
imagine.
scratch. And she's dead. They were having a candlelight vigil for her the other day.
Any background on why she was shot? I mean, she, like you just said,
No idea. Her
idea.
Her real name was Tisha Bruley. She had another stage name. She tens of thousands of Instagram followers. She had a OnlyFans account, which I guess everybody does.
Yeah, I mean, who
now.
doesn't, right? I mean, I know you do.
Fatmansfeet.com. Yeah, but it's very. I mean, that's a straight up hit.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. This was not just some random drive-by shooting. This was that she was targeted for this, and they put a hit out on her.
So yeah, it wasn't. This isn't a jilted lover or that. Usually, a jilted lover doesn't have two teams, two cars pull up and know exactly. This was a block or two from her house in Buckhead.
Right.
So they knew exactly what time she went home. They knew what route she was going home. They knew what car she got into and popped her.
Yep.
So normally we have funnier stripper stories, but that's not exactly a happy ending on it. But it's interesting that we've turned into the streets of Medellin in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got people in limos, essentially what an Escalade is on a Uber Black, getting whacked in the back seat.
Yeah, I can't imagine being that Uber driver. That had to be a crazy moment in his life.
Or you an Uber driver that took a bribe to tip them off?
Yeah, could have been. Never know. I'm sure he's up under investigation also.
Yeah, maybe I've watched too many movies.
Same here.
Was it Arkam's Razor? The simplest explanation is the most likely.
Yep.
All right, Ken, I guess you're not getting a chicken sandwich.
I don't know. This one's going to be tough for me, but I don't know if you saw this week that conservatives are now calling for a Chick-fil-A boycott. And this is after it came out that Chick-fil-A has hired a new diversity DE&I director. So everybody, all the conservatives in Georgia, it looks like they're fired up because Dan Cathy has now put somebody in charge of their DE&I program. Look, I think every major company nowadays that's a certain size has a DE&I director. I mean, they almost have to nowadays, or the left comes down on them and really hard. This is
but left wing protests have never hurt a company.
No, you remember a few years ago? Yeah, the left tried to cancel Chick-fil-A or tried to boycott Chick-fil-A a few years ago. It was probably
yes, and conservatives lined up around the corner.
Oh, I know. Chick-fil-A did. Yeah, Chick-fil-A did more business that year than they ever have. And by the way, the busiest Chick-fil-A is in New York City. The busiest Chick-fil-A in the world is in downtown New York City. So,
yeah,
go figure.
Well, in Goya, it came out with, it wasn't even a pro-Trump stance. This is several years ago.
Right.
It wasn't even truly pro-Trump, but they went after Goya. And let me tell you something. Every conservative that had been buying Old El Paso or Bush's beans or whatever else, they wiped the shelves clear of Goya.
Mm-hmm.
And they made sure that the employees and the owners at Goya, which is a truly American success story.
Yep.
Being able to compete in that space with giants like Bush's Beans and things like that. Conservatives went out of their way to go to the Latin section of the grocery store to buy Goya beans if they're going to buy black beans or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to have the same impact that the Bud Light. I mean, it was easy if you're a Bud Light drinker to go pick up Coors Light or some other beer. If you like Chick-fil-A chicken biscuits, it's not the easiest to find a Chick-fil-A chicken biscuit replacement. So, but I mean,
not just that. It's your restaurant experience at Chick-fil-A is much different.
Oh, it is, and
you can have 50 people in line at Chick-fil-A and you're out in 5 minutes. You could have 5 people in line at McDonald's and be out in an hour.
Yeah, and look, I think everybody understands that Chick-fil-A has changed since Truett Cathy passed away and his son Dan is now in charge. It has gone more, I'm not saying left, but it's just gone more to stuff like this that's going on. You know, Dan's big into the movie industry. He's big into these DE&I initiatives. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And like I said, every
Isn't
company
he the one
has
that
this.
said that white people should wash the feet of black people during the BLM protests?
He
and all that
did. He
stuff?
said we need to apologize for, racism and all the stuff that was going on. Yeah, Dan was big on that. We need to shine the shoes.
You ever been past Truett Cathy's house?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, if they want to start reparations, they can start them with them because they can afford it.
Right.
And Truett Cathy was a super nice guy. I think that being closed on Sunday, besides being a religious thing, it continues because it helps staffing tremendously.
No, definitely.
But I don't know what the hell they're thinking. Look, hiring the director is one thing. If they start changing their logo, or I just don't. Chick-fil-A needs to make chicken sandwiches and stay the hell out of politics altogether.
Right. All companies need to stay out of politics. I'm not big on any of them.
So real quick, there's not a whole lot to say about this. The middle school in Loudoun County, Virginia, had a fight club, a middle school. This was not at school.
Yeah, fighting in kids' basements and garages, and parents were okay with this, right? So parents were getting together and having kids fight in their garages and basements.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, I don't know. Fighting in a basement, you could certainly get hurt unless you got pads. But going out and King of the Hill or whatever outside, man, we did that stuff all the time. We routinely had kids break arms, fall. Not that took somebody over your knee and broke his arm, but roughhousing and playing tackle football in the backyard and all that stuff. I'm just impressed that they're outside playing.
Me too. And I'm like you. We played tackle football all the time growing up. We even played it in the church parking lots. I mean, it was it toughens you up, and if you get hurt every once in a while, so what? Just makes you a better person at the end of the day. We're too soft nowadays, especially our young kids. Oh yeah,
I had the wind knocked out of me. I had fist fights. And then next day, you're best friends. And that's just part of being a kid.
It is.
Now, the school, I guess, responded to this because they were being tagged in the posts. So it's bad. What you're doing, what you do is fine. Is when they felt the need to put these fights on Instagram or whatever the kids use now, TikTok, whatever. But they're tagging their middle school in it as, we're from this middle school. And the school's finally basically leave us out of it.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Even in the quote is like, we're not going to tell you how to parent, but you can't tag us in this stuff. So yay for kids getting exercise. San Fran's getting desperate. They have a $6 million U.S. tourism campaign.
Yeah, so what are they doing? Creating a new campaign to lure tourists back to San Francisco. What I thought was so funny about this is they created a minute-long musical ad that features a local drag queen named Lady Camden. I'm not sure a best way to recruit people that don't like the San Francisco, what's going on out there, is to have a drag queen as your local musical ad. But hey, all for them.
Well, look, here's the thing. That doesn't make San Francisco special anymore. In the 70s, absolutely, with Castro and the Castro district and all that stuff, it was a counterculture. That it was a place where gay folks could come and be gay. Mm-hmm. Now you have that in every city. It doesn't matter. You want to do a drag show, you want to do Charlie Brown's Cabaret or whatever. Atlanta's had that for years.
Yeah, San Francisco is a beautiful city, though. It is truly an amazing place. It's just who wants to go there with all the crime and homelessness that's overtaking the city. They didn't go down
to the pier and brag on that kind of stuff. They didn't. All the shots are so tight you can't see all the human feces on either sides of the sidewalk and stuff.
Yep.
And look, I heard you can stay cheap in San Francisco right now. Like the Waldorf is $500 a night.
Yeah, I mean, a city a year or so ago came out with an app, like an iPhone app, that if you see human feces on the street, you actually just take a picture of it, report it, and someone from the government comes out and cleans it up. So that's how prevalent it is in San Francisco.
Yeah, in a week or two. Yeah,
in a week or two.
Yeah, you got pooper scoopers for humans.
Right.
Look, I'm sure if you go to San Fran, and look, the flights to San Fran are fairly cheap too.
Mm-hmm, they are.
Because no one's going. And look, if you want to go to Napa SFO is your main airport you fly into. You fly into San Francisco and you take the Pacific Highway north and go to Napa. But that's not what the Airbnbs like outside of San Francisco, Mill Valley, and those areas are doing really, really well, because people when they go to San Francisco, they want to be out of you want to enjoy seeing the Golden Gate Bridge, and you can from Mill Valley. You want to do that. If you want to do that, you stay outside the city, and even trying to attract suburbanites to come into the city to do stuff. You don't go to San Fran to go out to dinner. You don't want to go to. I mean, as much as I may want to go to Chinatown, do you really want to go to Chinatown?
Not
You want to
anymore.
put up with all the crap to get there?
Nope.
Literally. This is a good time to remind you that these are our opinions and not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories over at thegeorgiavirtue.com. We got the Mule of the Week. Hanoi Jane says, white men are to blame for the climate crisis.
85-year-old Jane Fonda. I forgot she was still alive at this point.
Oh, gosh. Says white men should be jailed for it.
Yeah, she said there would be no climate crisis if there were no racism. That is a direct quote from her speaking this week. She said her main job in life right now is fighting patriarchy and racism, which is all the white man problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, she was helping fight that patriarchy and racism when she aimed an anti-aircraft gun at American troops and fired it.
It's amazing how just the relevance and trying to stay relevant and saying stuff like this, and the crowd that she spoke in front of. I don't know if you saw it. I'm sure she was speaking in front of a very liberal crowd anyway, but when she started talking, even the people in the audience were sort of moving around in their seats, not really, clapping or saying anything. I think everybody knew how cringy this comment was.
Yeah, look, I've never liked Hanoi Jane. Even from earliest memories of being told, what she is and what she did, even with liberal teachers and stuff, making excuses like she didn't know that's what she was doing. She was just trying to end the war, show that people are people. No, she's a dirtbag. She always has been. I guess she's in a new movie. She's in a movie out now too. I don't know. I guess that's what she was trying to promote is her movie. That's really the wrong way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to inform her that the father of American conservation is Teddy Roosevelt.
Right.
Very white man and a hunter, Republican. But he went out west and said, we have to preserve this. And he's the father of public land, of this idea of having spaces where our native animals and plants can thrive. So, yeah, I mean, that's a white dude that did that. All right, so loser Carrie Lake to speak at GOP victory dinner.
Yeah, it's just,
God.
I know, our statewide party continues to be in shambles. We've talked about this a couple times on the show lately. The GOP convention is next weekend in Columbus, Georgia. It's where all the GOP activists get together in the state and they elect a new chairman who I hope is Josh McCoon, state senator, or previous state senator out of Columbus. But they invited Carrie Lake to speak at their GOP victory dinner. So just think of that. She lost the election in Arizona for the gubernatorial race against Katie Hobbs. So they invited a loser to speak at a victory dinner.
Yeah. Carrie Lake made an ass of herself. Ask for a recount, absolutely. Then that's not good enough. Lawsuit, fail. File another lawsuit, fail. She did everything she could to block her opponent from taking the governor's mansion.
Mm-hmm.
Which to a certain point, fight. But at a certain point, you have to accept the results.
Yep.
If once you've exhausted all practical solutions, if the only solution you have left, the only arrow left in your quiver, is to go to the media and whine, it's over.
And she's been whining ever since she lost.
So you've got her who's denying an election. You've got Candace who denies several elections, including one she got beaten by 47 points. Obviously, that was fraud.
Yeah, I mean, it's Candace Taylor. To me, I mean, this is a Candace GOP convention. Mike Pence was supposed to be the original speaker at this convention, and he pulled out, probably for good reason. They probably would have booed him down in Columbus. But yeah, Candace Taylor's basically running the GOP. This is the same lady that said the earth is flat. This week she came out and said Elon Musk is the Antichrist. This is your Georgia GOP. It's Candace Taylor, flat earthers, and calling Elon Musk the Antichrist. It's amazing that the GOP's allowed
the
this.
Guidestones were struck down by God.
The Guidestones were struck down. She claims that she beat Governor Kemp. If it wouldn't have been for cheating, she would have beat Governor Kemp in the gubernatorial primary last time around. This is also at a state convention where none of the statewide elected officials, except for Burt Jones, are actually attending this year. And it's just they've lost credibility.
I don't think your boy has a chance. If this is the lunacy that the state party is going for, McCune doesn't stand a chance.
I think Josh is the only one that can get the actual GOP relevant again, because I think he does have the respect of Governor Kemp. But we've got these leadership packs in Georgia now, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But there's just statewide candidates no longer need the Georgia GOP on their side. They've got enough money to run campaigns, and they sure don't need people like Candace Taylor touting them when she's just absolute lunatic. I don't know any other way to describe her.
You ever move a piece of furniture with your wife and just tell her don't help?
Right. Quite often.
And that's exactly Candace say, well, I want to support you. Don't help.
Yep.
Don't mention me. Don't help.
And I always like to I always like to bring up Candace's shenanigans, because there were a lot of people that live around my house in my area that still have Candace Taylor signs up. And I don't know if they were fooled, they're not paying attention, or what's going on, but it's embarrassing at this point to have her in the GOP.
Yeah, look, she can vote any way she wants. She can run. Look, I think she has enough supporters where she is. She could have been in the state house.
And she probably could win a state house race at this point.
I think she still has the money. I don't think she wants state house because she'd have to take 3 months off during the school year to do that. And I don't know exactly what the hell she does at the school. She makes a very good salary, especially for where she is. But I don't know what put the screw loose in her head. I don't know if she's always been an idiot or if she's surrounded by, just like we're talking about working at CNN and working at Fox. I don't know if she's surrounded herself with people who are nuts and they've encouraged it. But yeah. I don't know. But look, this is a bad look for the Georgia GOP if anybody's actually looking. But I don't think Josh has got a chance with that crowd. No, he's going to stand up there, give a speech, and be reasonable, and somebody else can go out there with their hair on fire and go, "The world is flat. The world is flat." And they're going to go, "That's our guy."
And I think up until the filming of this episode, President Trump is the only presidential candidate for the Republican Party that is committed to speaking at the Georgia GOP. Typically, you would have all the candidates coming through to speak. I mean, you would have Pence and DeSantis and Chris Christie, and all the major candidates would come in and want to get the support of the GOP there and get volunteers to work on their campaigns. All these candidates know that the GOP, they've lost it this year, and there's no reason to come up there, speak, and get booed off the stage. I mean, this is the Republican Party in Georgia. It's the party of Trump right now. I think he wins the state big next year in the primary, and I mean, I'm going to continue to predict he's going to get beat by Biden because of previous elections and just what Trump is at this point.
If Biden doesn't fall down and kill himself
yes,
first.
If he doesn't fall down and a sandbag doesn't cause his demise.
Doesn't assassinate him?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the sandbag's fault. He went the wrong way off the stage. Yeah, he fell down at the Air Force graduation last week.
Yep.
And look, it took two people to get him back up.
Yeah, that's very embarrassing.
Like I fall down. I mean, that happens. I trip on something, fall down, you look back, see what got you, and then you stand back up. He not only one person put their hand down to help him up, but had Air Force general and a Secret Service agent on either side, getting him back on his feet, like he was a turtle turned on its back.
Yep.
So speaking of Georgia Republicans, Kemp is targeting Democrats in the 2024 election cycle.
Yes, this story came out this week. So again, Governor Kemp has this leadership pact now that he's able to raise unlimited amounts of money into. So he's already looking forward to the 2024 election cycle. And, Democrats and Republicans both do this. They look at all the state House races and state Senate races around the state of Georgia, and they figure out who we need to protect on our team and who we need to go after on the other team. So his initiative so far is designed to protect 6 state House Republicans. And you may know some of these people. Scott Hilton of Peachtree Corners. Scott actually served 4 years ago, served 2 years, lost, and then ran again last year and won. Scott's a super guy. I like Scott. He's just a good guy. Deborah Silcox of Sandy Springs. Deborah is basically a Democrat already. Matt Reeves of Duluth, Lauren Daniel of Locust Grove, Mike Chokas, and Gerald Green. So Kemp's trying to protect those 6 state House Republicans, and then they're targeting 5 Democrat incumbents. State Senator or State Rep Michelle All. I don't even know how to say this other state rep's name. Farouk Mughal, Jasmine Clark, Nabil Islam, and your buddy and my friend, State Senator Josh McLaurin of Sandy Springs.
Yeah, look, there's also putting candidates up in sacrificial races. And the Democrats do this pretty well. They run a sacrificial lamb against Joseph Gullett every year, or every 2 years. Mm-hmm. And it's not because they have any hope of winning. Look, you just don't go from a core of 65% to flipping that seat.
No.
What it does is it makes Joseph save his money and use his money in district instead of sending it to somebody else.
Right.
So part of these PACs would be funding people in blue districts just to make sure that they have to campaign, just to make sure that they can't take that money and send it elsewhere. And that's the game. Is that people wonder why the hell would you run against somebody that you know you're going to lose? That makes them spend money.
And I haven't looked up the latest number, Dave, but I think it's 180 seats in Georgia. I think Republicans are down to about 98. Their majority is basically a majority of 8 at this point. So Democrats know if they can flip 5, 6, 7 seats, then they get it down to almost 90-90. And at any given time in a Georgia General Assembly, 5 to 10 or 15 people will be missing. They've either got some type of work that they need to do externally, or they're in a meeting, or they're visiting with constituents. So they know if they get it down to about 90-90, it's going to be tough to pass, Governor Kemp's priorities and any controversial type bill in the next legislative session.
Well, that is up to the speaker a lot of times, is to hold it to make sure when you're going to have everybody in your caucus on site in their seats.
Yep.
And that has a lot to do with your whips, and has a lot to do with your floor leaders, and that kind of stuff. Where we know there are things that happen. People get sick.
Yeah, we would get text messages all the time on crucial bills, or bills that were going to be close. Our whip, there's a whip in the House and there's a whip in the Senate, and they have deputy whips. And deputy whips has about 10 representatives apiece. And every time their crucial vote was coming up, they were whipping people to come in. Please make an effort to get in the chamber for this vote. And it's going to be a lot harder if Republicans lose any of these seats.
Yeah, even as a spectator and a visitor, I'd go up there and would stand around and BS with the reps, and then a crucial vote come up. And go, I gotta
bell
go.
starts ringing.
Go sprinting off. Go, I'll see you at lunch or whatever. Go running off to go vote.
Yep. Now, what's funny about a couple of these Republicans that they're trying to keep in office, like Gerald Green, for example, he's down in the Cuthbert area. His district is 60% Democrat, but he's been in office for a long time. It may be 20, 25 years. Gerald is, he's like who's the representative the congressman down in the southwest part of Georgia that's been, more of the districts are plus probably 6, but he's been in so long because he's just got the respect of a lot of people on the other side. So that's what Gerald is. I mean, Gerald's voting record in the House, I think when I was there were 25 Democrats that voted more conservative than Gerald, but his people like him. So I don't think he's going to be necessarily targeted and removed from office. I think he'll win again just because he's got a lot of friends.
That Howard Maxwell said about Kim. I'm having brain fart. But they're asking him to fund opposition against her, and he said no.
Right.
You know, they both represent the same county. They work together on a lot of stuff, and it was Kim Alexander. He was not going to go after Kim Alexander.
Yep. And Sanford Bishop is who I was thinking about. Sanford Bishop is in a Republican congressional district, but he's just made a lot of friends with the farmers down there. He's always got farm aid out to them when they needed help, and he's been there he's been their go-to guy. So it's the same way with a couple of these representatives that they win in other districts.
That's the beauty of local politics is especially if you get outside of Atlanta, is your reps.
Yes.
They're in your community. You run into them at Publix.
Yep.
And I about ran into Joseph one day accidentally walking through Publix. Oh, hey man, because they are members of our community. They're not aloof. They're not over in Washington that they fly home for the weekends to come shake hands. These are your friends and neighbors, and it doesn't matter if it's an R or D after the name if you know this is a good person.
No, I totally agree. And what the Democrats will do is they'll nominate people to run against these people that are like wacko left. So even if you're a Democrat in one of these districts, you know who Joseph is, or you know who Gerald or Mike are, and then you've got this crazy candidate over here on the fringe, and they're not going to switch their vote just because of the DNR beside their name.
The last one that ran against Micah called herself the Pink Rocktopus.
Yes, I remember that. So even Democrats are not going to vote for her because they know that even though they may not disagree with all the policies, they know he's a good person, right, and has a good family, and is going to look out for them at the State House.
Well, especially in rural Georgia, where there's not a huge line between Democrat and Republican on family value issues, on farm issues, and things like that. There's not a whole lot of air between them.
Yep.
Now, on the outside, they're even trying to get a gun bill past somebody who's a Democrat from South Georgia. You're not getting a yes vote on a gun bill.
No, not at all.
You may not get constitutional carry out of them, but you're not going to get an assault weapons ban out of somebody who supports South Georgia.
Right.
All right, man. As we're running long, as we tend to do, closing thoughts.
Yeah, just real quick. Congratulations on Al Pacino having a baby this week. His wife had a baby. He's 82 years old. I had to read that headline again, but him and Robert De Niro both had new babies here recently. I can't imagine being 82 and having a baby, but hey, Al Pacino.
It's not like he's going to raise it.
He's not. I'm sure there's plenty of nannies.
He's not like, come here, little man. Oh, come here. No. He's going to stand there. He's going to sit there like a grandfather, put the baby in a lap, take a couple pictures, and he's going to die.
Exactly.
You know, good God. Yeah, it's, I mean, everybody loves Al Pacino, but good God. I mean, obviously, there's a 29-year-old that really loves Al Pacino.
He demanded his wife to have a paternity test when the baby was with the baby. So obviously, he either has got short-term memory and forgot what happened, or something else is going on here that we don't know about.
I heard somebody on Gutfeld the other night say, can you imagine being in the house? Al, come upstairs and make love to me. I can't do both.
Oh, that's too good.
All right, so I'm going to end on a happy note. Happy anniversary to my parents, 58 years.
Yeah, congratulations. That's quite an achievement in today's world.
Yeah, I told my mother at her 50th, had she killed him the day she married him, she'd be out of prison by now. So yeah, there is hope, and they got married very young, and with no money. With my father being a E2 or E3 in the Air Force to put food on the table, and worked their butts off their entire lives and raised at least one good kid and 3 decent ones. And they continue to work on it every day, and that they love nothing more than to spend time together and travel together, and that they're kind of they're inspiration to people to see what it means to put family first, work your asses off, raise good kids, and obviously now they're enjoying their lives. So, on that note, a big thanks to Eric Cumby, our editor, to Ken Poland, the representative emeritus. I'm Dave Roberts. We'll talk to you next week.
I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon.